It's time for Agriculture, presented by Turkana Farms in Germantown, New York, a small-scale producer of heritage breed livestock and a wide array of vegetables and berries on just over 39 acres. They also produce a full array of garden vegetables, many of them heirloom varieties raised naturally, as well as an assortment of berries, including raspberries, blackberries, gooseberries, black, red, and white currants, mulberries, and elderberries. And now, here's Mark Scherzer.
It was Mae West who famously said, "Too much of a good thing can be wonderful." Her aphorism came to mind this week as I was confronted by an abundance of good things. It's become a cherished annual tradition that my best friend George and I spend several days at the end of August in reunion with our California-based college roommate, Susie. She and her husband John installed themselves at George's house in nearby Connecticut, and we see each other repeatedly. This year, I decided that it would make great sense to lure my sister and her husband from Pittsburgh to join this event, as they befriended Susie and John when they all lived in Houston in the 1980s, and the four had not seen each other in 23 years. An additional benefit would be to introduce my boyfriend Eric to my family, as he had introduced me to his the month before in Quebec. Coupledom, after all, requires that we know each other's families. But a group of 7 congregating a day after day over 5 days is a bit overwhelming and easily risks being too much of a good thing. Keeping it fresh and not unduly burdensome requires some thought. We addressed that risk in part with changes of context, dinner revolving from George's one night to my house the next, to a restaurant the next, etc., and attempting activities beyond just conversation. The afternoon at a pond, a walk through a sculpture show, you name it. Whatever we did, it worked. We all, I think, felt a warm glow afterwards, and no hint that the good time together was too much. It was perhaps not surprising, though, that too much of a good thing became itself a topic of our conversation. It is late summer, and anyone with a garden knows that this is precisely the time that too much of a good thing is being produced. The avalanche of tomatoes that I most associate with summer is just beginning to roll here, but an avalanche of zucchini has been underway for quite some time. A repeated focus of our discussion was what to do with all this zucchini. I've never really been a huge zucchini fan. To me, it always seemed to be all volume and no flavor. But then, my views had been shaped by poor, soggy steam table preparation I encountered in restaurants and catered events when younger, and by my own generally neglectful approach to the vegetable garden. I see a nice little zucchini on the vine, and I think, oh, I'll pick it tomorrow when it's just slightly larger, the perfect green color, crisp and subtly flavored. When I next decide to check the vines, 3 days later, there lies a pale, yellowish 2-pound baseball bat, full of a large, seedy center with a somewhat non-determinate flavor. Sure, I can hollow it out into a boat that is stuffed and baked with a filling, or can shred the flesh and even freeze it for winter use. But often, confronted with 5 or 6 large vessels like that, and unable to face processing, I feed them to my old sow, Possum, who devours them avidly. This year, however, in part because the zucchini were one of the few crops not being eaten by the rabbits plaguing my garden, I decided to be more attentive to harvesting at the peak moment and to try different ways of incorporating the abundance into my diet. I started with what I consider a fail-safe, Turkish zucchini fritters, mujver, they call them, in which you shred the zucchini, salt it to extract as much liquid as possible, saute the shredded zucchini with onion and garlic, then add that mixture to egg, flour, beyaz paneer, or a similar feta-style white cheese, chopped dill and parsley, some hot red pepper and salt. You make that mixture into patties and fry it in sunflower oil and serve it with yogurt. I made this for Eric and my friend Tom one night, and even though I didn't quite get the fritters to hold together well, they pronounced it a resounding success. From there, I started exploring alternatives. When on my own, I made pasta sauce in which sauteed zucchini simmered in a tomato sauce. Yum. Another night, curried zucchini, loaded with cumin, coriander seed, and hot pepper over rice. Also quite tasty, as zucchini absorbs the flavor of what it cooks with, and it's easy for a quick one-person meal. I tried air frying little zucchini sticks cut on the fine setting in the mandoline, expecting something like those Belgian frites you get with mussels, but unfortunately produced a soggy mess. This led to a search for recipes for air-fried zucchini, and it turns out that if you cut the strips like thick French fries, roll them in flour, and then beaten egg and breadcrumbs and Parmesan, they emerge from the air fryer crispy on the outside and tender on the inside. A triumph we repeated and will again. I had vaguely remembered a dish Eric prepared last summer, which called for long strips of zucchini marinated in olive oil and lemon juice, and then rolled into an almost floral presentation, drizzled with honey and dill. Hunting for it, I found a variation on the New York Times website, using small rounds of young zucchini with garlic added to the marinade, and in which a mix of dill, parsley, mint, and chives is sprinkled on top. I think it's just called marinated zucchini salad. We've probably done these two recipes in the aggregate 8 times in the last month. Encountering this dish in a subsequent meal and recognizing the quest I was on, professed zucchini fan Tom suggested a bulletin entitled 50 Shades of Z. So now I like zucchini, and I continue to seek out new ways to take advantage of this summer abundance. Susie suggested stir fries, and also a chickpea and zucchini stew. I welcome, and in fact avidly request your favorite suggestions as I try to vindicate Mae West's words of wisdom. Too much of a good thing can indeed be wonderful.
Agriculture is underwritten by Takana Farms, LLC, a small-scale producer of heritage-bred livestock and a wide array of vegetables and berries on just over 39 acres in Germantown, New York. More information, 518-537-3815.